Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a deep dive into the electrifying growth of e-commerce in the UAE. This region isn't just growing, it's rapidly solidifying its position as a global leader for online ventures. The momentum is really unmistakable. Our mission for you today is to cut through the complexity, of setting up an online business in this incredibly dynamic market. We're extracting the most important insights and some surprising facts too from our sources to help you get well informed fast. We'll unpack the strategic decisions, the financial realities, and those crucial regulatory steps you absolutely need to know for 2025.
Yeah, and what's truly striking here is how the UAE isn't just sort of experiencing this growth passively. It's actively cultivating this environment. There's a very clear national vision at play, supported by deliberate strategic moves.
That active cultivation from the UAE government is definitely a strong signal. But thinking about listeners considering this, what are the common missteps or maybe overreach challenges that even a government-backed vision can't entirely prevent?
That's a really critical question. Often businesses get a bit swept up in let's say, the headline figures.
Yeah.
And they might overlook the need for, deep localized market understanding and comprehensive long-term financial planning. That's huge. The regulations are supportive, yes, but they're also robust. They require meticulous attention, not just initial compliance, but ongoing adherence too.
That's an excellent point. Ongoing adherence. So why exactly the UAE for e-commerce, especially right now? Our sources highlight some really compelling drivers. I mean, for starters, it boasts a near 100% internet penetration rate. This isn't just about connectivity, right? It signals a market with a remarkable maturity and significant consumer purchasing power. What genuinely stood out for me anyway in our research was Dubai's average online order value. It's a staggering $332. Now compare that to Europe's average, which is around $73. That figure alone starts to paint a very clear picture, doesn't it? It implies a clear focus on premium products, higher value transactions. This isn't a market chasing tiny, frequent sales. It seems to be one where quality and value offerings are, highly appreciated.
Right. And zooming out a bit, this isn't just, a fortunate outcome. It's quite deliberate. The UAE government's national vision aims to double the digital economy's contribution to GDP from 9.7% to 19.4% by 2031. This isn't just an ambitious target on paper. It's backed by substantial ongoing investments. Think advanced infrastructure, AI. This signifies a very deliberate long-term national strategy to foster a digital-first economy, meaning you can likely anticipate sustained policy support and continuous investment.
And it's not just the big picture strategy, is it? There are core advantages that make it incredibly appealing for businesses day to day. You benefit from a 0% personal income tax rate across all Emirates. That's a big one. Plus, there's robust logistics infrastructure, a strategic global trade location connecting Europe, Asia, Africa, and a strong, stable banking system. But here's the real game changer our sources emphasize. That recent allowance for 100% foreign ownership across most mainland activities, including e-commerce. This really empowers foreign investors. Full autonomy, profit retention, and for those seeking speed, many free zones continue to offer incredibly streamlined and rapid company setup processes. So with that kind of landscape, the very first and maybe the most foundational strategic decision you'll make is choosing your legal structure. Is it mainland? Or free zone? It's a choice that really shapes everything else that follows.
Yeah, and stepping back, it's actually fascinating to look at the historical context here. How much things have evolved. Traditionally, free zones were, the undisputed choice if you wanted 100% foreign ownership, while mainland companies required that 51% local partner, which was a major hurdle for many. But, as our sources definitively point out, these recent amendments allowing 100% foreign ownership for most mainland activities, e-commerce, consultancies, trading, IT services, that's truly transformative for foreign investors. It genuinely removes a significant barrier that historically, it channeled many businesses towards free zones, sometimes by default.
That 100% foreign ownership on the mainland really does sound like a complete game changer, a massive barrier removed. Does it effectively negate many of the traditional advantages free zones offered? Or are there still key scenarios where a free zone remains the, let's say, unequivocally superior choice, maybe for international e-commerce or specific industry clusters?
That's a crucial distinction to make. While mainland is now far more accessible, yes, free zones absolutely still offer distinct advantages. It really depends on your business model. Take market access. Free zones are generally restricted from direct local UAE trade. So if you want to sell directly to consumers across all 7 Emirates, you typically need a local distributor if you're in a free zone. Or you just use the free zone primarily for international trade. Mainland, on the other hand, offers unrestricted access to the entire domestic market, which is crucial if your primary target is local consumers or maybe even government contracts.
Okay. And what about the financial side, particularly taxation? How do they stack up there?
Right, tax. So free zones offer that 0% corporate tax on what's called qualifying income and import duty exemptions within the zone itself. Mainland companies, well, since 2024, they are subject to a 9% corporate tax, but only on profits exceeding AED 375,000. However, it's vital to remember both mainland and free zones maintain that 0% personal income tax rate. So the corporate tax threshold is the key difference there.
Got it. So for the regulatory environment, how do they compare? Is one easier than the other?
Generally, free zones tend to have their own independent authorities. That often means simplified procedures, regulations tailored for quick setup, more self-contained. Mainland companies operate under broader federal and local laws. This can involve, more detailed compliance, maybe different layers of approvals. And when it comes to setup speed, free zones are usually faster, often just 3 to 5 business days. Some express zones can even do it in 1-3 days. Mainland can take a bit longer, typically 5-10 business days, sometimes maybe 2-3 weeks. Although an instant license is possible in just 1 day for very low-risk activities. So if you're thinking of launching almost immediately, that speed difference can be a significant draw for a free zone.
Mm-hmm. And finally, the practical stuff, office and visa requirements, because that can be a real day-to-day difference.
Absolutely. Free zones offer more flexible solutions, things like flexi desks, virtual offices, and they often bundle visa quotas for your team, making it simpler. Mainland, conversely, typically requires a physical office address and a registered tenancy contract, which is known as an ajari. And while 100% foreign ownership is now widely permitted on the mainland, you might still need what's called a local service agent, or LSA, for specific activities. Though, crucially, they don't have ownership or control over your business anymore.
Okay. Given all those nuances, what's your sort of ultimate advice for our listeners in making this foundational choice? It really sounds like there's no single best option.
You're absolutely right. There isn't a one-size-fits-all answer. What's often underestimated, I find, is banking compatibility. This can be a real headache later on. Not all free zones are equally accepted or, let's say, favored by UAE banks when it comes to opening corporate accounts. Premium zones like DNCC, IFZA, RegKZ, they're generally well recognized. That can be a huge operational advantage down the line. Smooth banking is critical. Also, strategically aligning with specialized e-commerce free zones, like Dubai Commerce City, for example. They provide invaluable industry-specific incentives, custom support, networking that can far outweigh maybe marginal cost savings for a more general-purpose zone. So the choice should truly prioritize long-term operational efficiency, strategic alignment, and financial fluidity, not just minimizing the immediate setup costs. Think long-term.
Right, long-term view. Okay, so with that foundational choice behind you, mainland or free zone, the next critical phase begins. Turning that decision into an actual, tangible business. So how exactly do you navigate the company registration process? Our sources confirm that while the UAE has significantly streamlined this, it still requires, meticulous attention to detail.
It's definitely a series of clear steps, but yeah, don't mistake clarity for simplicity. The real, maybe secret sauce here lies in understanding 2 critical elements. First, the precision required in selecting your business activity. And second, the often underestimated importance of immediate digital compliance, right from the start.
That makes sense. Okay, let's walk through the key stages then. The very first step is choosing your business activity. With over 2,000 licensed options, this is where precision is paramount, as you said. For e-commerce, it usually falls under categories like retail sale via mail order houses or internet, something specific like that. Get this wrong, and you might face limitations later on. Then you select your legal structure, maybe an LLC, a sole proprietorship, or a branch office. And remember, sole proprietorships now permit 100% foreign ownership. And third, you decide your jurisdiction, mainland, free zone, or offshore, based on your target audience and capital. This choice, like we just discussed, directly impacts market access and taxes. Big implications. Okay, next, you'll reserve your trade name. It must be unique, follow UAE guidelines, avoiding offensive or political terms. Pro tip, always have a few alternatives ready, just in case. After that, you apply for initial approval, getting what's called a No Objection Certificate, or NOC, from the DED, that's the Department of Economic Development, or the relevant free zone authority. This basically confirms they're okay with you setting up. Then, you'll need to draft and notarize your Memorandum of Association, the MOA, for LLCs, or maybe a local service agent agreement for sole proprietorships. These are mandatory legal documents, need to be done properly. 7th step, you'll need to lease office space or secure any jari that registered tenancy contract. This is mandatory for mainland companies requiring a physical office. Free zones, as we said, offer more flexible options like flexi desks or virtual offices. Once all your documents are finalized, reviewed, and payment is made, you'll obtain your trade license. That's the big moment. After that, a critical post-license step is opening a corporate bank account, essential for managing your finances, obviously. And finally, don't forget to consider other post-license requirements. This could include specific product registrations or additional permits depending entirely on what you're selling.
Right, and just to reinforce that digital compliance point I mentioned earlier, the mandatory approval from the TDRA, that's the Telecommunications and Digital Government Regulatory Authority for all e-trade licenses, is a really strong signal. This, coupled with requirements for secure technology infrastructure and cybersecurity requirements, means digital integrity isn't just an option anymore. It's foundational from day one. Businesses ignoring these aspects can face, well, significant financial penalties and severe reputational damage, too. It's serious stuff. And while the steps are clear, the process isn't just a checklist you tick off. The value of experienced business setup consultants, honestly, it really cannot be overstated. They can help navigate nuances like the often tricky bank account opening for certain free zones, or maybe product-specific approvals that you might overlook. They can prevent costly delays down the road. Definitely worth considering.
Okay, so now that we've mapped out the operational roadmap, the inevitable next question for any entrepreneur is, what's the real financial investment here? What does this actually mean for your wallet? Beyond the initial, maybe, hype, let's talk numbers.
Yes, let's. And here's the crucial caution I'd give. While those initial setup costs get a lot of attention, they are often quickly eclipsed by the ongoing operational expenses. These costs for things like your website, marketing, logistics, they're substantial. They really are. They can easily exceed AD 10,000 monthly for just a basic e-commerce venture, and they can escalate way beyond that over AD 100,000 monthly for more established operations. So a strategy focused solely on finding the absolute cheapest initial setup without adequately budgeting for these significant ongoing costs, well, that can lead to severe undercapitalization. It seriously jeopardizes your business's viability. This is where I see businesses underestimate the most.
That's incredibly insightful, a crucial warning. So, okay, for that initial outlay then, what kind of ranges are we realistically looking at?
For free zone licenses, you're generally looking at somewhere between, say, AED 8,000 to AED 15,000, just for the license itself. Overall, including registration and initial fees, that typically ranges from about AED 17,000 up to maybe AED 70,000. Depends on the zone and package. Mainland setups, on the other hand, you can find zero visa packages starting around AED 12,900, with overall cost usually between AED 14,000 and AED 30,000 plus. Smaller administrative fees, things like reserving your trade name, initial approvals, those are typically just a few hundred dirhams each.
Yeah.
Relatively minor in the grand scheme.
Right. And what about office space and visas, factoring those in?
Yeah, office or flexi desk costs are definitely a factor. Flexi desks in a free zone can be quite economical, maybe around 85,000 per year. Physical offices on the mainland are generally much higher. Visa fees for, your team members typically range from AED 3,000 to AED 6,000 per visa. And don't forget, you'll have annual renewal costs for the license and potentially other things, usually between AED 5,000 to AED 10,000 annually. That's recurring.
Okay. Let's really dig into those ongoing operational expenses then, because as you said, they often dwarf the initial setup costs. What are the big buckets there?
Absolutely. Let's break it down. Think about website development and maintenance first. That can range hugely from maybe AED 3,000 to AED 80,000 plus initially. User interface and user experience design, especially if you need a bilingual Arabic-English interface, that alone could be AED 5,000 to AED 25,000. Then there's annual security measures running from maybe AED 1,000 to AED 6,000. Crucial. Payment gateway fees. There's often an initial setup cost, maybe AED 1,000 to AED 5,000, though some are free to set up now. Plus transaction fees, typically around 2-3% per sale. Key providers you'll see are Stripe, Teller, PayPal.
Okay, website, payments. What about the physical side of e-commerce? Inventory and logistics, that must be significant.
Oh, definitely. Inventory and warehousing costs are highly variable. Obviously depends on what you sell and how much stock you hold. But renting dedicated warehouse space could be, say, AED 2,000 to AED 10,000 per month or more. Logistics and shipping. Estimates often put this around AED 20,000 monthly for ongoing operations once you're established. Key providers include names like Aramex, DHL, Emirates Post, Reliable logistics are key here. Then there's digital marketing and advertising. This is a really significant recurring cost. It can range widely from maybe AED 1,500 monthly for very basic efforts, up to AED 15,000 plus monthly, and much higher for scaling businesses. And it's vital, really vital, to allocate at least 20% of that budget specifically to Arabic language ads and local content. You have to reach the whole bilingual market effectively.
Right, that localization point is key. And what about staffing, hiring people?
Yeah, employee salaries. For a comprehensive team, maybe customer service, marketing, logistics coordination, you could be looking at a total around AED 50,000 monthly. Individual roles might range from AED 5,000 to AED 20,000 depending on experience and function. And don't forget ongoing legal and consultancy fees. Maybe for compliance checks, contract reviews could be AED 1,000 to AED 5,000 annually, just to keep things ticking over correctly.
Wow. Okay, that paints a clearer picture of the total financial commitment. It's a lot to consider. Any quick tips for our listeners on saving costs, especially when they're just starting out? Maybe some lean strategies?
Definitely. Starting lean is often the way to go. Consider a minimum viable product, or MVP, website. Focus on core features first, just enough to launch quickly and get feedback. Iterate later based on data. Leverage free zones for their flexible office solutions and often simpler processes. That can save on initial overheads. Utilize government tools and resources like Dubai SME. They offer support programs specifically for small and medium enterprises. Worth checking out. Repurpose your content across different platforms. Maximize reach without creating everything from scratch each time. AI tools are also becoming really useful. They can generate significant savings in areas like content creation, translation, even basic customer service chatbots. And crucially, focus your marketing budget. Maybe 70% or so on your top 1 or 2 performing platforms where you know your target audience is most engaged. Don't spread yourself too thin initially. Be strategic.
Great practical tips there. Okay, so let's say you're set up, your budget is clear, but the journey doesn't end there, does it? The UAE has a robust framework for ongoing regulatory compliance and operational realities that you absolutely need to understand and stay on top of.
Exactly. This truly underscores how important continuous compliance is. It's not just about getting the license. Beyond your basic e-commerce license, certain product categories require very specific approvals. For instance, food products need approval from Dubai Municipality and MOCAE, that's the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. And labels must be Arabic or bilingual, no exceptions. For health products, medical items, supplements, MOHAP, the Ministry of Health and Prevention registration is mandatory. And even marketing these online, say on Google or Meta, requires specific approvals from those platforms too. They have strict rules. Electronics might need TDRA approval and specific customs release permits. So it really depends on what you sell.
Right. Product specifics are key. And what about consumer rights and, increasingly importantly, data privacy in the digital space? What's the landscape there?
The UAE has pretty robust frameworks in place, and they're evolving. The Federal Consumer Protection Law, that's Decree Law Number 5 of 2023, protects consumer rights across both mainland and free zones. It requires suppliers to protect privacy and data security. Then there's the Federal Personal Data Protection Law, Decree Law Number 45 of 2021. This applies federally, but interestingly, it doesn't apply to certain financial free zones like DIFC and ADGM. They have their own, often GDPR-style data protection laws. So you need to know which regime applies to you. Critically, new 2025 cybersecurity laws are bringing stricter guidelines. Things like mandatory opt-in cookie banners in both Arabic and English, secure data storage in UAE-approved data centers. The penalties for non-compliance are significant, ranging from AED 100,000 up to AED 5 million. Digital integrity, data protection is foundational, not an afterthought. You have to build it in.
Wow, those penalties are serious. And the marketing landscape is also highly regulated, right? You can't just advertise however you want. The TDRA enforces strict advertising and marketing rules. Explicit user consent is required for data collection, think cookies, location tracking, clear opt-ins. Anti-spam rules apply to email and SMS marketing. You need clear unsubscribe options. Advertising transparency is non-negotiable. Sponsored content must be clearly labeled. No misleading ads, no exaggerated claims, no fake urgency tactics. They're cracking down on that. And for influencer marketing, influencers now actually require a license, and they must declare paid posts explicitly, #ad basically. You also need to be aware of platform restrictions, like from Google and Meta, no gambling, no adult content, and crucially, ensuring cultural sensitivity in all your marketing.
And from a broader strategic viewpoint, the UAE's tax framework is evolving too. It's not just static. Beyond that 9% corporate tax on profits over AED 375,000, there's a new 15% domestic minimum top-up tax coming for large multinational enterprises, starting from 2025. This aligns with global BEPS 2.0 initiatives. E-invoicing is also on the horizon. It'll become mandatory for B2B business-to-business and B2G business-to-government transactions starting from July 2026, phase-by-phase rollout. And just to echo your earlier point on localization, it is absolutely essential for engagement. Bilingual Arabic-English content, cultural sensitivity in your messaging and imagery, and mobile optimization for your website. These aren't just nice-to-haves anymore. It's critical for actually penetrating the market successfully.
Yeah, definitely critical. And beyond e-commerce specifics, there are broader regulatory updates for 2025 that any business operating in the UAE needs to be aware of, right? Things like amortization targets. They now require companies with 20 to 49 employees to employ at least 2 Emiratis starting January 2025. That's a significant change for mid-sized companies. Private joint stock companies now face a mandate for at least 1 woman on their board of directors, promoting gender diversity at the top. Plus, there's a new climate law effective May 2025. This introduces the UAE's first legally binding framework for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It's pushing businesses towards a legally mandated ESG, environmental, social, and governance approach. Things are definitely moving on that front. So as we wrap up this deep dive, the picture is clear. The UAE offers a highly attractive, very dynamic environment for setting up an e-commerce company in 2025. You've got strong government support, a digitally savvy population with high spending power. Remember that incredible average online order value. And that allowance for 100% foreign ownership on the mainland really enhances direct access to the domestic market. It presents a truly compelling alternative now for businesses targeting local consumers. So for you, our listener, thinking about taking the plunge, here are our key recommendations distilled from this discussion. First, strategic jurisdiction selection. Really conduct a thorough assessment of your target market. If local B2C sales are paramount, the mainland offers that unparalleled access. If international trade and maybe simplicity are bigger priorities, a free zone remains highly advantageous. But prioritize that long-term fit over just the initial fees. And always, always include banking compatibility in your assessment. Don't forget that.
Absolutely. Second, meticulous planning and professional guidance are, well, they're non-negotiable, really. The process, while streamlined in parts, is complex overall. Engaging experienced consultants is highly recommended. Seriously consider it. They can help navigate these nuances, ensure full compliance, avoid pitfalls. Third, comprehensive financial forecasting. Your true financial commitment extends far beyond just getting that initial license. Budget substantially for those significant ongoing operational costs: marketing, logistics, staffing, compliance. Undercapitalization in these areas can severely hinder your growth, or worse.
Fourth, prioritize digital compliance right from inception. Build it into your processes from day one. This includes clear cookie consent mechanisms, secure data handling practices, transparent advertising disclosures, especially with those stringent 2025 cybersecurity laws coming into full effect. Be ready. Fifth, invest strategically in localized digital marketing. In this competitive bilingual market, a significant portion of your budget needs to go towards targeted campaigns. Culturally relevant Arabic content is key. Leverage those high ROI channels effectively. Don't just spray and pray. And finally, sixth, proactive regulatory monitoring. Stay continuously updated on evolving regulations, taxes, product approvals, broader reforms like amortization, the new climate law. The landscape isn't static. You need to keep pace.
Yeah, exactly. And when we connect all these different pieces, the market opportunity, the legal structures, the cost, the compliance, it really highlights how crucial a well-rounded, deeply informed strategy is. You need that for success in this incredibly dynamic market. It's about looking at the whole ecosystem, not just isolated parts, understanding how they all interact.
Absolutely. A holistic view is key. So here's a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over. Given the UAE's proactive digital-first strategy, its commitment to innovation, and that high-value consumer base we talked about, what unique niche or perhaps what specific innovation do you think has the greatest potential to truly thrive and make its mark in this evolving e-commerce landscape?